Our next performer is, she's so awesome. I love her so much. She has been in the live lit world for 15 years and currently produces a Chicago-themed variety show, right up my alley, the second Wednesday of every month at the Playground Theater. It's called The Lake Effect. So the next one's December 10th. Put it in your calendar, like right now, but after the show. So, but you can find her on Instagram at Carly Comedy. Please welcome Carly Oishi.
I didn't write to theme, so sorry. There's no November rain. As a 46-year-old woman, when I hear the term hot and bothered, I assume you're talking about perimenopause. I hadn't really felt hot and bothered in the other sense since before I had my kid over 10 years ago. I guess when you have a geriatric pregnancy, a pretty rude way of describing it if you ask me, your libido might not bounce back to its former frenzy. So I was surprised when my horniness was reawoken by my new hobby, playing video games. A couple of years ago, I bought myself a Nintendo Switch after realizing trying to share one with my then 8-year-old son had become untenable. Aside from dabbling with the Super Mario franchise, it's been decades since I cared about the world of gaming. I'm not sure how, but I stumbled upon a role-playing game where your character is this girl who moves to a new town to help at her grandmother's farm, and then you find out she's actually a witch. And that was fun and all, but what I really became hooked on was the ability to develop relationships with other characters. The subtle flirting, the romantic dates, the eventual confessions of love. I ended up marrying a werewolf. But even though there were sexual undertones, it wasn't enough. I mean, I assumed marrying a wolf would mean some pretty exciting sex, but apparently even games rated mature aren't super explicit, much to my chagrin. Taking a deep dive into the reliable world of Reddit, I researched high and low for something that would suit my needs, chasing after that renewed teenage hormonal lust. And every time I would be left unsatisfied, despite playing a game where I hooked up with this brooding cowboy type who looked amazing without a shirt. That's when I discovered fan fiction. I wasn't completely ignorant of this form of writing. I just never got into Twilight or 50 Shades of Grey and missed out on the heyday of Tumblr when it was a softcore sex site. I guess I thought it was kind of weird to write out fantasies about fictional characters or actors and share them online, or more accurately, uncomfortable to admit feeling connected to, possibly obsessed with, someone that wasn't real. Like, it was one thing to have Keanu Reeves posters plastered on my bedroom walls when I was 15 and seeing Speed 3 times at the theater, but writing 10,000 words about our imagined sexcapades felt like a potentially mental health issue form of fandom. But that's before I was able to view this thing as a way to create an original narrative, an extended, more complex story that felt unfinished or unexplored, before I understood what it felt like to even want that. And yes, I did start writing some of my own. Before you ask, I am aware of porn. The flaw in porn, at least for me, has been the inability to find something that actually turns me on. And maybe I'm a weirdo since my tastes somehow elude a fucking porn search engine. But every time I try, it ends up being 2 hours scrolling through videos that never match up with my keyword combinations. So I remembered that a close friend of mine who had shared that she used to write fan fiction also liked reading smut, another thing I'd never gotten into, thinking romance novels were still like the ones with Fabio on the cover, being read by stereotypical, sad, single, middle-aged administrative assistants. I texted her for book recommend. No offense to administrative assistants. I used to be one. I texted her for book recommendations, and she joked that she had been waiting for this day. So I gained a new second hobby, reading erotic fiction. Sure, some of the covers have photos of topless men with ridiculous bodies, always standing in the rain for some reason. A lot of the titles have a similar font and cover art, as if that alone means you'll like it, which, feels sort of condescending. What I discovered within the genre were all of the various takes on how smut is approached within literature. Some authors have spicy content in almost every chapter. Others draw things out in that slow burn. Still others only describe foreplay and forego the sex scenes altogether. One thing that stands out is how much consent is present. The males in these stories never take what isn't explicitly offered, constantly asking for a verbal confirmation. Though it's worth noting that none of the female characters want it slow and gentle. I devoured these books, once again scouring Reddit for insight. It's a great place for queries that will result in, if you like this, then you'll definitely like this. But buying books when you finish them in a couple days, even used, started to get a little pricey. And putting holds at the library could drag out for weeks because, unsurprisingly, there are a lot of horny women in this city. Then I had the brilliant idea to see what Spotify had to offer, and there it was, a trove of erotic fiction categorized by spiciness level using a chili pepper system. Just like the physical books, I dabbled in all sorts of subgenres, trying to find what might tickle my fancy. Peter Pan fiction, where Wendy bangs Peter and the Lost Boys at the same time, didn't exactly fit the bill. Truthfully, though, the plot was good enough to keep me invested. But fantasy fiction turned out to be the right direction. I have spent hundreds of hours listening to a George R.R. Martin type author who has 3 completed series under her belt. I'm not even in it for the smut now, though it doesn't hurt. The descriptions of life-altering orgasms could be considered eye-roll-inducing, except the characters are always non-human. They're Greek gods, fairies, archangels, or shapeshifters. Of course, an otherworldly being going down on you would result in seeing actual stars. And in every single one of these fictional worlds, the concept of the one is described as finding your mate, the person you were fated to be with. Again, gag. But there is something kind of fascinating about the potential that your 6'5", well-endowed soulmate is somewhere out there chilling light years away in another galaxy. When I decided to write about this, I intended to just share my 2 new hobbies with you because they are unexpected and somewhat humorous. But like a lot of my musing, it doesn't always have a point or overall theme. So yeah, why am I telling you all of this? Because I want to suggest that there are things out there that you might really enjoy, regardless of your age, ethnicity, occupation, marital status, tax bracket, waiting to be stumbled upon through improbable circumstances that may or may not be tied to your already current interests, rabbit holes you could fall into that result in delight or reawakening or a bit of fucking joy. And besides, I think we could all use a little less doom scrolling. Thanks very much.
So this is how we introduce the Funny Haha Book Club. We're starting it. Our tagline is, before you ask, I am aware of porn. Thank you. That's my favorite. I'm going to make you a shirt that says that. We're going to make us all shirts. This is fun. I'm having so much fun.